Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Sudan in Focus weekly news magazine, which focuses on Sudan news and events, aims to give the Sudan TV audience a broad and first-hand information about what is going on in Sudan. So let's go.
The chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, met on Saturday, Sultan Saad Abdul Rahman Bar al-Din Sultan Dar Masalit. Sultan Baruddin said in a press statement that he briefed the President of the Council on the results of his foreign visit and the meetings he held within the framework of achieving peace and ending the war and supporting the armed forces to resolve the rebel terrorist militia, noting that the meeting touched on the necessary needs during the next stage for citizens who were displaced from their homes due to the war. The chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, met on Saturday with the delegation of the Mobilization Committee in the Red Sea State, headed by Shaiba Dirar. Otis Ahmed Ali, Secretary-General of the committee, said in a press statement that the meeting comes within the framework of supporting the armed forces that are fighting the battle of dignity to deter the rebel militia and its supporters. A member of the Sovereign Council, Assistant Commander-in-Chief Lieutenant General Engineer Ibrahim Jaber Ibrahim, was briefed on the overall humanitarian conditions of citizens in displacement camps in the Darfur region. During his meeting in his office in Port Sudan on Wednesday, Sultan Saad Abdul Rahman Bar al-Din Sultan Dar Masalit assured the need to work to provide full facts to the world about what is happening in Sudan and the nature of this war, which was started and sparked by the rebellion of the Rapid Support Forces. For his part, Sultan Bahar explained in a press statement that he briefed the member of the sovereign on the results of his recent visit to the European Union countries and the results achieved by the tour, especially in clarifying the reality of the war and how the Rapid Support Forces rebelled against the state and that Sudan was invaded, which is a regional war. Deputy Chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council Commander Malik Akar headed Thursday to the Eritrean capital, Asmara, on an official visit to participate in the celebration of Eritrea's National Day. He is accompanied during the visit by the Acting Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Hussein Al-Amin Al-Fadil. He was bidding farewell at Port Sudan International Airport by several ministers and state officials. Sudan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Al-Harith Idris, criticized the presidency of the UN Security Council for ignoring Sudan's request to hold a special session of the Security Council to discuss the aggression of the United Arab Emirates on Sudan through its proxy, the genocide militia called the Rapid Support Forces.
I want to update you on a matter of significant importance to the sovereignty and security of the Republic of the Sudan. Recently, the Sudan submitted a formal request to the UN Security Council to discuss the United Arab Emirates' aggression against our nation through its continuous multifaceted support for its local proxy, the genocidal militia of the RSF. This request was articulated in two detailed letters to the Council, highlighting the urgency and gravity of the situation. Our submission to the Security Council was clear and specific. We sought a dedicated meeting to address the acts of aggression perpetrated by UAE against the Republic of the Sudan. The purpose of this request was to ensure that Security Council is fully apprised of violations and to seek appropriate measures to address and rectify the situation. Despite our clear and unequivocal request, the presidency of the Security Council, due to the pressures exerted on them, decided to convene a meeting in a manner that does not align with our expectations or the seriousness of our complaint, let alone the disastrous situation in our country. The topic and format of the meeting, as decided by the presidency, were not in accordance with our specific request. Instead, the meeting has been structured as a generalized manner, which we believe dilutes the focus and urgency of our concerns. This is not an attack against the President of the Security Council at all. In fact, we commend his laborious efforts to reach a consensus with a view to convening this meeting. And we also commend and applaud the practical consensus that he managed to realize. Sudan remains steadfast in its commitment to pursuing a dedicated meeting focused solely on our complaint against the UAE. We are determined to engage with the Security Council in a manner that adheres to Article 3 of the Council's Rules of Provisional Procedure. This article stipulates the right of member states to have their specific complaints addressed appropriately and without dilution or procrastination. Finally, we will continue to engage diplomatically and utilize all available channels of multilateral diplomacy to ensure that our voice is being heard and our concerns are addressed. The Sudan is committed to upholding international law and norms, and we expect the same from international community. Our objective remains clear: to secure a meeting that specifically addresses the aggression against the Sudan in a focused and comprehensive manner.
Ambassador Al-Harith Idris gave a detailed explanation of the UAE aggression on Sudan through the Rapid Support Militia.
Yes. UAE, as we have just discussed in the Security Council, must be censured and condemned, and should willingly come to terms with the UN Charter and abstain forthwith from destabilizing peace and order. They are arming the militia of RSF, and they are also engaging mercenaries with sophisticated weapons to overthrow the government in Sudan. And its blatant and infamous aggression is very well known. It has been documented with investigative journalists in America, in Britain, and across EU. And also it has been, it has been also mentioned in the panel of expert report in December 2023. So we say here in this respect, creeping immunity or impunity in this respect is not unacceptable, but dangerous. The UAE behaves like a rogue state. It must be punished for invading Sudan through local and foreign actors and proxies. The weight of evidence show, and the RSF do not have any legitimate demand to be accommodated. It is not a political entity. They use the armada supplied by the UAE to kill civilians, to destroy infrastructure, to rape women and girls, to displace people from their abodes and homes and local, local homes, driven by vicious motivation for using military power to usurp political power. Their project failed. They must be accountable to all atrocities against the Sudanese people and their women and girls and children and vulnerables. And the people persuaded have been perpetuated, all these crimes have been perpetuated in cold blood, in a savage manner, and they must be accountable to this.
In response to a question about the delivery of humanitarian aid to those affected by the war in Sudan, Ambassador Al-Harith Idris answered.
The Sudanese Humanitarian Aid Commission is working closely with all international organizations and humanitarian aid with regard to securing flights clearance for the delivery of humanitarian supplies, for giving or granting access to all area that has been affected, and issuing of visas and travel permit to accompany trucks of aid to affected areas, established presence of Sudanese authorities in Port Sudan, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has facilitated direct channels of communication with the humanitarian actors. There are no constraints whatsoever or so-called bureaucratic impediments.
They want to show they're on top. Soldiers and police of the Sudan Armed Forces in the center of Omdurman, doing the sign of the falcon. We've seized our prey. The aim is to demonstrate to us that they're back in control and that the people are happy to see them. But such triumphalism is premature. They may have driven the Rapid Support Force militia out of this part of Omdurman in March, but their enemy still occupies Omdurman's twin city, the capital Khartoum, and much of the rest of Sudan. We drive through a city of ruins. Imagine the shopkeepers, the people who lived here, the lives destroyed by this futile war. Families rescue a few belongings from looters. Every 100 meters or so, new local recruits have erected another checkpoint. Everyone's nervous. General Abdel Fattah Burhan presides over devastation, over a country that's coming apart, the legitimacy of his leadership open to question. The last battle for this part of Omdurman was fought here in the middle of March. This area was absolutely littered with bodies. The Ministry of Health came and removed hundreds. But the RSF is still just about 4 kilometers up the road. The battle for the capital of Sudan is not over yet. Walls that remain intact hide the greatest horrors. This house was owned by a poet who fled to Saudi Arabia. The RSF took it over, but they didn't just trash the place as they did elsewhere, but turned it into a torture or maybe execution chamber. They dug a pit and placed a pulley on an iron bar on the ceiling to hoist people up and suspend them. Rumours of what happened here spread. After the RSF was driven out, the homeowners asked a neighbour to come and check.
فدخلت هنا ما قدرت يعني اتخلعت من المنظر الموجود ده. يعني أنا وصلت هنا الباب ويعني كنت في حالة بتاعت صدمة كده، دي شنو دي الحاصل شنو. فبعد ذاك جيت أخبرت شباب الحلة، قلت لهم والله يا أخي في حاجة حاصلة كده غريبة يعني في البيت ده، يعني من منظر الحديد والحفرة وكده، يعني حاجة صعبة.
We found a document listing names. 31-year-old Omar Ahmed Adam, a 30-year-old woman Manal Hassan, 12 names in total, all accused of great betrayal, in other words, not supporting the RSF. And amongst the debris, mementos of the happy family who once lived here, who can never in their worst imaginings have predicted what would happen in their home. So there were really big battles here, yeah?
Yes.
I walked a few yards round the corner with Rashid Ahmed, who stayed at home here in Old Omdurman for 4 months until the fighting became too intense. Outside his house we can smell death. The piles of earth are makeshift graves. RSF slogans have been graffitied on the walls.
This is my car. This is my car, yes.
It was your car?
It was, yes.
His house was badly damaged. A rocket hit after he left. But the cornicing with which his grandfather adorned the walls when he built the house in the 1940s remains.
We don't expect it to happen to us. This. All in our dreams we can't imagine this. Always we hear about wars again outside Khartoum and outside Omdurman, not in Omdurman, not in Khartoum. It's very bad. Very bad.
Do you think you will live here again?
Sure. Sure. It's my house. It's my home. We will build again, inshallah.
The children still play. Even if they've fled their homes and are living in a school that doubles as a centre for the displaced, their mothers, of course, can't forget what brought them here.
طبعا الدعامة جو علينا في بيوتنا، طفوا علينا في البيوت، وكانوا دايما يغتصبوا بناتنا، ولا من بناتنا طفرناهم بالحيط بفوق، وقتلوا بنت وولدين كانوا دايما يدافعوا عن البنات ديلا. حالتنا يعني صعبة، وطبعا الرجال ما لاقين شغل يشتغلوا، ويعني ياهو.
In the absence of international aid, neighbourhood groups are pitching in. Do you think that the international community has let you down?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think so. I think that people eyes now on Ukraine and Gaza, but we got not a lot of help here in Sudan. Basically, people need food and medicine, basically. Okay?
Food and medicine, as simple as that?
As simple as that.
Because in war, you see the best as well as the worst of humankind. The best being people like Dr. Mohammed Banaga, who started a soup kitchen for displaced people, funded by local shops and friends in the Sudanese diaspora. And you stayed here throughout the war. Were you not afraid?
No, I'm not afraid. Afraid of what?
Afraid of being killed?
Man will die once, no? Not twice, once.
This family just escaped Wad Madani to the southeast of Omdurman, where the RSF recently seized control. All over Sudan, people are going hungry because they've lost everything. The economy has collapsed, and armed men frequently steal what little aid is available.
الوضع سيء جدا، يقتلوا المواطنين، يشيلوا حقهم وينهبون زي دي ويطردون من بيوتهم، وشالوا ثمارهم وحياتهم كلها، موادنا المحاصيل كله شالوا برا.
Ruin upon ruin, rout on rout. Not a paradise lost, but a country. Neighbouring powers are fueling this war. The United Arab Emirates arming the RSF, Iran and Egypt backing the Sudan armed forces. If the parties aren't forced to negotiate, what will be left of Sudan? Nothing that can be reassembled, but a failed state in a forever war, its people dispersed and destitute.
Sudan is one of the richest countries of uranium. Sudan's rank is a third globally, with reserves reaches 1.5 million tons, mostly located in Nuba Mountains, North Kordofan, West Darfur, beside Nahr al-Nil State, Red Sea Mountains, and Al-Butana. Experts of uranium describe the one which available in Sudanese lands, it's a high purity, while the world look up to providing its scarcity of uranium because it's very important in some of military and civilian industries, including nuclear energy, which uses in nuclear electricity stations, and its productivity reaches 14% of total electrical energy. Nuclear energy, one of the sustainable energy, depends on plentifully stock of uranium, and Sudan have a great uranium reserves. Also, uranium enters in fields of medicine, agriculture, and industry. Uranium is very important because it's a world energy future and one of sustainable energy sources. As per some studies that expected to rush order of uranium reaches amount of 83.840 tons till a year of 2030. Productivity of uranium reaches to 47,808 tons in 2021, which covers about 75% of international markets needs. In 2022, productivity increased a little bit to 49,355 tons, which covers 74% of global order. That makes a whole world seeking to provide a good stock of uranium. Uranium is a common metal found in rocks all over the world. Recoverable uranium reserves are located in Western United States, Australia, Canada, Central Asia, Africa, South America. Historically, uranium discovered in 1789 by Martin Klappers, a German chemist. It was named after the planet Uranus, which had been discovered 8 years earlier. The Sudanese government decided to open the door to uranium investment after consultation with security authorities, with cooperation with Sudanese Oil, Gas and Mines Ministry and Water Resources and Electricity Ministry investment with CNNC cooperate in the peaceful use of nuclear energy with uranium enrichment. In 2018, according to the country's trade minister's statement, there is one study carried out in the laboratory scale to recover uranium from certain area in the eastern part of Nuba Mountains in Sudan. Phosphate ore samples were located and analyzed for uranium abundance. The results showed that samples contain a significant concentration of uranium with an average of 310.3 Ug/G, which is 2.6 times higher than the world average of phosphate. Imagine that. This located to the center of the eastern part of the Nuba Mountains in the state of Kordofan, between Abu Jubaiha and Al Rashad towns at the state. Sudan is a very rich country in the mining field, so Sudan is the future of sustainable energy and a country of opportunities.
For months now, Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, RSF, an independent military force, together with allied armed groups, have been besieging the city of El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur. If the city falls, this would likely kick off yet another wave of killings. This is happening in the total absence of any UN or other international or regional presence mandated to protect the civilian population there. RSF forces and affiliated armed groups have already killed thousands of mostly Mausalit people in El Geneina, West Darfur, and surrounding areas, forcing more than 500,000 people, mostly Mausalit, to flee into neighboring Chad. The risk now is that they will take aim at the hundreds of thousands of displaced people who, fleeing the violence in other places in Darfur, have found refuge in El Fasher. Reading horrifying new developments in Darfur draws my mind back to July 2023, when my colleagues and I traveled to eastern Chad to gather evidence of mass killings in El Geneina. On a hot day in July, my interpreter and I were walking in the arid outskirts of the small town of Otter in eastern Chad, where hundreds of thousands of people, mostly ethnic Mausalit women and children, were staying, having fled the violence in West Darfur. Men were noticeably absent. Families were living in makeshift shelters, consisting of 4 sticks and a piece of tarp, which hardly protected them from the scorching sun or torrential rains. There was almost no access to electricity, running water, or regular food provision.
U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, strongly condemned the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, for their siege of El Fasher.
Today, the UN Security Council met to discuss the crisis in El Fasher, which is on the precipice of a large-scale massacre. This is not conjecture. This is the grim reality facing millions of people in El Fasher in North Darfur. There are already credible reports that the RSF and its allied militias have razed multiple villages west of El Fasher. And as we speak, the RSF is planning an imminent attack on El Fasher. As I've said before, history is repeating itself in Darfur in the worst possible way. And an attack on El Fasher would be a disaster on top of a disaster. It would put 500,000 internally displaced persons at risk, people who traveled from across Darfur to seek refuge. And that's on top of the 2 million Sudanese who call El Fasher home. A crisis of epic proportions is brewing, and to avoid further death, destruction, and suffering, 5 things need to happen immediately. First, the RSF must end its siege and build up of military forces in El Fasher and swear off any attack on the city. All parties to the conflict must take urgent steps to de-escalate. The UN Security Council already called for this, but that's not enough. Every single member state must speak out. The entire international community must speak out.
Sudan is distinguished by its different cultures, which are expressed by each region or tribe of Sudan that is scattered throughout the whole country, which distinguishes it from others. The Waza music is one of the most folk music in Sudan, especially in South Blue Nile district. It's made from conkel gourds that is hollowed out and connected together with 3 parts. The music band for Waza instrument consists of 13 players. Each of them are a trumpet of varying size. The older generations are keen to bring the youngster and encourage them to play Waza in order to acquire skills and experience that before the main occasions. Also, they want them to keep their tradition, folklore, and heritage to alive. Waza is played before the corn harvest season, social occasions, and guests arrive. There are 5 horns that can produce one special sound that express about their deep feelings of happiness. That interesting with the agricultural achievements. Waza, it has many social and cultural meanings among the Sudanese citizens.
يا الخرطوم يا العندي جمال يا الخرطوم يا العندي جمال جنة رضوان طول عمري ما شفت طول عمري ما شفت مثالك في أي مكان زيك ما لقيت يا وطني. في وجودي أريدك وغيابي يا وطني يا بلد أحبابي يا وطني يا بلد أحبابي في وجودي
بتذكر فيك عهدي الصبايا بتذكر فيك عهدي الصبايا على شاطئ النيل وحبيبي الساهر معايا وحبيبي الساهر معايا ده أسمر وجميل كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني. كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني. كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني. في وجودي أريدك وغيابي يا وطني يا بلد أحبابي يا وطني يا بلد أحبابي في وجودي أريدك وغيابي. قلبي